Our final guest today had been a life and business coach for 15 years, but when she went through her own divorce, she says it still hit her like a freight train. Realising there was little specific help to guide you through the roller coaster of changes you face at this overwhelming time, she decided to do something about it. Here to tell us exactly what, and maybe to help somebody else in the future, please welcome the divorce coach, Sara Davison. Hi, Sara.
Hi there. Thanks for having me on.
My pleasure. So you combined all your years of coaching and then put it together with, I suppose, what you went through emotionally yourself and created this specific programme.
Yes, that's right. I mean, I went through my divorce 7 years ago, and at that point, I'd been coaching professionally for about 15 years. So I was really surprised, actually, when I felt that sort of extreme roller coaster of emotions, and I, really took the floor out from underneath me. I had my son, who was only 1 at the time, and I thought, wow, if I'm struggling to cope with all these different emotions, and I'm trained in, how to manage my own emotional state, how does everybody else cope? So I started looking for help on the internet, reading books, but there was nothing that was, giving me specific help for things like, how to hand my baby over at weekends. And my husband moved on very quickly and started a new family, and I found that extremely challenging. And we'd worked together for, a long time, so we had a joint business together. So managing that relationship was also quite tricky. So in the end, I thought, well, there's no specific help, so how about I just use my knowledge and my skill set that I already have and combine it with this personal divorce experience. I always sort of joke slightly with my friends that, when Gwyneth and Chris came out with their conscious uncoupling idea, I thought, well, that's great, if you can do that. But in my experience, I've sort of coined the phrase, I aggressively severed. And I think that a lot of my clients go through that, as well. And, even with the best intentions, if one of you doesn't want to do it amicably, or, maybe when you start discussing finances, it can sort of change things. And I think there isn't really enough support out there for people. So that's why I've created my program to sort of help people from the should I stay, should I go stage, all the way through to, I've been separated or divorced for years, but I'm still stuck and I'm still struggling, and watching your ex move on sometimes can be hard, even if you don't want to be with them. It's about understanding how to get that momentum back into your own life again.
Yeah, and it takes a long time. It takes many years to get over a divorce as well. We were talking the other day, it's like a bereavement, isn't it?
Well, actually, it's funny you should say that. It actually follows the same 5 stages that you go through when you're grieving the death of a loved one. And it's known as the second most traumatic life experience you can go through after the death of a loved one. So there's sort of 5 stages you go through, and they're identical. The first stage is denial, where you kind of stick your head in the sand and say, oh, this isn't happening. And you don't really talk about it that much because it kind of almost makes it real. And I had a client last week in my clinic who said that she found a receipt from Ann Summers, which is an underwear shop, and she didn't confront her husband about it. And she sort of hoped it would be a present for her, but this present never materialised. But she never talked about it. And a lot of people might find that strange, but it's actually your body's way of sort of protecting you until you're in a position where where it's sunk in a bit and you can deal with it. And then a lot of people then go into anger. I see a lot of clients at rage even, where, they're shouting and screaming and it really overpowers the rest of their life. So it affects, work and parenting and friendships and puts strain across all your life. And then you kind of go into the bargaining stage, as it's known, where you're kind of saying, well, maybe if I was a bit thinner, or if I was a better husband or a better wife, or I'd clean the car more often, or the things that maybe we didn't do so much of, and you try and change yourself so that you don't have to face any changes. And then the interesting stage for me, I think people naturally will go into a depression, and I see a lot of clients who are going through depression, but actually they think it's like that's it forever, and maybe their GP's diagnosed them saying, well, you're depressed, which actually is part of the natural healing process. And a lot of people think, oh, well, I'm depressed and that's my life now. But actually, you have to go through that. You have to mourn the end of your relationship before you can let it go to move on and into the final stage, which is acceptance, which I touched on earlier, just about, I don't really want to go back, or I know I can't go back, but I don't know how to move forward. So you kind of get stuck in no man's land. And that's where I see a lot of people too. So it is, like you say, just like going through the grief process. And you really need specific techniques and strategies to help you kind of speed that process up. Because even though it does take time, you can speed it up if you've got the right techniques to help you do that.
Well, I know your book is called Uncoupling, which we've just mentioned. I'll mention the book again in a second. And you've got your website, and on it, you offer a free breakup survival guide and action plan.
Yes.
First of all, it says the 7 secrets to surviving the end of your relationship. What would they be? Are they part of the 5 steps?
There's lots of different things, and in that document, I mean, it's designed to give you that boost when you first start going through that breakup and you start going through the shock. And it's about how to give yourself the strength to carry on. And if you download it, you'll see that there's lots of different things you can do. And the 7 secrets are really the things that you must know just to prevent you from going into that depths of depression, and also, yes, as you say, to speed you up through that curve, that roller coaster of negative emotions that you're going to go through. And there's also things in there, 3 things you must avoid as well. And there's things that, when you go through a breakup, that we are just naturally programmed to do. And it might be things like sort of cyber stalking, I call it social media self-harming, where you're following everything your ex is doing on Twitter or Facebook. And actually, that's like picking a scab and never allowing it to heal. So there's some things which you kind of have to do to take control back over your life. And that's what everything I do is designed to do. It's really at a time when you're feeling completely overwhelmed by everything that's going on in your life. Yeah, it's about how to get your control back and put you back in the driving seat of your life. And to show you that actually breakups, divorce, they don't have to be the end of your life. Obviously there's going to be a sadness as you mourn the end of that relationship with someone that meant so much to you. But actually it can be a golden opportunity to redesign your life just the way you want it. And so that's what those secrets and those tips in that book give you, the initial starter to say, right, okay, I've got a bit of direction, I've got a bit of a plan, because a lot of people feel so totally lost and at sea when they get that, that initial panic feeling of, wow, my relationship is really over.
Yeah, it absolutely can be completely overwhelming. And anyone that's been through it will know that you do feel like this is it, this is my life's over, I'm never going to be happy again. But 99% of people I know, including myself, have come through the other side, and it was the best thing that ever happened, because you end up far happier. So
exactly.
Hopefully that will help other people knowing that, because it's not nice to go through, it really isn't.
No, it's a traumatic event. And, I think when someone dies, you have the funeral and everyone comes together. But when you go through a breakup, quite often we suffer in silence a lot of the time. And people will expect you to get on with life and move on after a period of time. And sometimes that isn't as easy as it seems to others. And I know especially there's been some articles recently about men finding it really hard to move on after divorce. And I think a lot of men do what I call stuffing. They stuff their emotions down because it's not natural for them to discuss it maybe as much as some of us women would do. So they stuff it down, and they might distract themselves with maybe going to the gym or working 24/7 or even drinking more, drugs, partying, whatever it is, just to distract themselves. And one of the techniques I work a lot with my clients in my clinic and on the retreats that I run is to actually how to face those emotions head on. So instead of avoiding them and never wanting to feel them, when you actually face them head on, you kind of diminish the control they have over you, so that you can actually, move through that emotion and actually control it rather it controlling you.
It's interesting. I read that article as well, and it says that there's been a seismic shift and women are bouncing back far quicker now than men. Interesting.
Yeah, I think it's true. I think maybe it's because we talk more about our emotions, women in general. But I think the fact that we're hearing more that men finding it hard is actually because they're talking about it too, because the stigma around divorce is lifting, finally. 42% of marriages in the UK end in divorce. So, I think it's time we start talking about it and being open about it, and the stigma should go. And I think, a lot of people have seen through friends and other members of their family maybe that, divorce doesn't have to be the end of your life. It can actually be, a turning point.
It can be the start, yeah.
Yeah. It can be something even better, like you were saying.
Yeah. Do you give advice as well? Because one thing that happens when you get divorced is you're no longer a couple, you're suddenly single, and that can completely change the way you feel and how other people feel about you.
Yeah. Yes, I see. I went through this, and I'm sure you did, and lots of people listening, that it is quite isolating, because suddenly you get dropped from the dinner party circuit, or you're the only single parent at the school gates, as in my case, and suddenly, the dating world is very daunting. It's the last thing you think you'll be doing again as you walk down the aisle on your wedding day. So, there's so many practical challenges that people have to face, and I do work a lot with clients. I had a client the other day who, she'd been with her husband for 25 years, and he had done everything, so the online banking, the booking the holidays, all that kind of thing, and she'd done all the domestic chores. And when they separated, not only was she emotionally very upset and heartbroken, but also she was having to learn a whole new practical skill set just to get her through her daily life, which was challenging and daunting for her as well. So that, I deal with both the emotions and also the practical challenges, because quite often they cause us a lot of stress just worrying about the things now we have to do. But then again, you have people who are quite competent at those kind of things, but struggle to remember actually what they like doing as an individual. For so many years they've been compromising, whether it's a small thing like having more Chinese food rather than Indian food, say, on a Friday, because that's what the husband and the kids potentially like to eat. But actually, when you're single, you've got to get back to, what really makes me tick? What do I love? What makes me smile? What hobbies did I give up or have I ignored because it didn't fit in with my partner that I can now do again? Yeah. And one of the exercises that goes down really well on my breakup recovery retreat weekends is doing your breakup bucket list. And that's everything that you can do now that you could never have done when you were with your partner. And it's amazing the things people come up with. One guy said he wanted to climb Everest because his wife had never allowed him to do that. She was scared because it's obviously very dangerous. So as soon as he thought about it, he said, well, actually, I can do that now. And he's off in a couple of months. It's quite amazing.
It is. That's quite a big thing to do, isn't it? It doesn't have to be that large.
It doesn't have to be that large. You can just be starting to wear a different colour clothing or something,
Yeah, you can do something a bit easier. These retreats, they sound like a great idea. Are information about those on your website?
Yes. SaraDavison.com is my website, and on there is all the information. And what I'm trying to do is show people, and it's kind of like a new way to cope with your breakup. Instead of just sort of talking to friends and surviving, doing your best, learn some of the techniques and strategies that help you to cope better and will speed up that process. And on the retreats, it's a 2-day workshop where people come along and I just immerse them with me. It's a small group of people, and I just immerse them in all my techniques with me on hand to sort of deal with specific personal issues and challenges that come up, just for 2 days. And it really just gives them a toolkit of information that they can use to help them cope better and show them actually that there is hope, and that life can be good again. They will be happy, they will boost their confidence. I'll give them techniques on how to deal with conflict with their ex, empowering their children to cope better, self-confidence, everything they need to get their life back on track.
And also spending time with like-minded people that are going through exactly the same thing.
Yeah, and actually that's one of the most beautiful things of the whole retreat, is that people come in very upset, heartbroken, and feeling very isolated. But they form a bond in this group of sort of 12, 15 people that actually they're friends for life. These people stay in touch, they support each other. And just by hearing other stories from maybe members of the opposite sex as well, it kind of restores their faith that actually there are nice women out there are nice men out there, and that other people have gone through the same thing and are going through the same thing. And maybe, they actually help each other. They sort of suggest ways that they've tried that have worked and places they can go to get help. So, it's a very empowering weekend all in all. Yeah.
So that's SaraDavison.com.
That's right, yeah.
And your book, which I know you came out last year, is called Uncoupling, How to Survive and Thrive After Breakup and Divorce. So we can buy that as well. If you can't go on the retreat, buy the book.
Exactly, yeah.
Sara, it's been lovely talking to you. It's a not a pleasant subject, but it's good to know that we can come through the other side. So thank you very much for joining us.
Thank you so much.
Take care, bye-bye.
Bye.